Hello, this is Bright Roar for esports by INQUIRER.net. I'm joined by the captain of Can't Say Whips, Godot, otherwise known as Darcy Jose, or is that how you pronounce the last name?
Yeah, that's fine.
Darcy Jose. So, yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to ask you, how was your tournament? How did it go? Can't Say Whips. I think right after winning OK Dota 2 in Singapore, you had a lot of momentum coming in. Really, I think people and casters in particular were saying that this is an exciting and aggressive team coming out from Malaysia and Australia. So I'd like to ask you, how did Malaysian All Stars go for you guys?
Uh, when results show not good, to be honest, we're 0-3 in the whole tournament. Our first game was pretty tough. It was against IG, probably the favorites to win the whole thing. But when we played them, I felt like we did have a chance to win, but we just didn't perform. It's been like this, our performance since DAC. After OK Dota was quite strong because we did have the momentum going and everyone was confident, but ever since DAC, it's not been the same. So, yeah.
For DAC, you played with Extinct Joel Chan as your fifth. What happened in DAC, and then why did that translate to over here in Malaysia? Was it a teamwork thing? Was it a lack of practice with each other sort of thing? What was happening there?
Well, there was definitely lack of practice. I mean, we played with Extinct maybe like a week before the event, so it's nowhere near as much time. But I don't think it was the big letdown of the team. I think Extinct did do his best, and it wasn't. I wouldn't say that our support duo was the reason to why we lost in DAC or did badly in DAC, but mainly the cores as the solo laners, individual skill was a bit of a problem. It seems like we just kept getting outlaned every game, and then once we were really behind early game, it's really hard to come back in that scenario. So we just kind of got outskilled in a sense when it comes to individual skill. But yeah, performance wasn't good, so it was a letdown for all of us.
Well, I'd like to ask you about your thoughts on the metagame for the tournament, somewhat, and how that sort of translates to the rest of competitive Dota. Right now, it seems that Troll Warlord, Shadow Fiend, Sniper, these are the three heroes where the metagame revolves around. Then you have your second tier of picks in Axe. Basically, everyone is looking to snowball out of the laning stage and just dominate in team fights. Is this the sort of environment that you guys are comfortable with? Has this patch been good to you, or do you think has this patch been solved, or are there other strategies floating around?
I think like when it comes to meta, it's more like a trend. Like sure, there will be the top heroes in every time they change the patch, but there's always going to be like the solid heroes. So generally people will pick those solid heroes like Troll. Troll goes with everything, but the playstyle will be a little bit different depending on the team. Like for example, the Western teams will draft a little bit differently with Troll. Maybe they'll play more for an efficiency, stacking ancients and whatnot, and then pushing up. Same thing with SF. Like for example, the Western teams would rather go for the Yules build on SF. They'll generally not go for the mechanism build. But the Chinese are quite opposite. They'll always go for the mechanism build and build it like a team fight sieger. So depending on the playstyle or where the team comes from, it changes a lot, even though the picks are still there. But regarding patch, I think we're fine with it. We do play these heroes, but I feel like that even if the patch were to change, if we keep going like this, it wouldn't really matter. It would be the same still.
Well, I guess I'd like to transition from that into something of. I suppose this is a bit of a talking point in the competitive scene in Dota right now. We were talking just about strategies and whatnot. It seems that some commentators are remarking that while C Dota is known for being aggressive and whatnot, the metagame sort of became stale. As far as C Dota is concerned, before C Dota would be leading stuff in terms of aggressive strategies, but right now it's like everyone in C Dota is just following what's happening in the greater trend. Do you have anything to say about that?
I kind of like pointed this problem out before in one of my other interviews. I think it was for Ghost Gamers. I think the main problem, like, the teams do follow trends. Like every team does that though, but the C in general, they don't really do anything new by themselves. They don't really have a captain to involve more complex strategies or like think about how to beat these common trend heroes and whatnot. So as I see it, they just go for these heroes that generally are played and just try to win against teams who are even more comfortable than them with these heroes. So I feel like a lack of captaincy is in these. There's not many drafting strategies. There's not much involved in thinking when they pick these heroes. So it comes down to whoever set the trend will always be better at the trend because they're the most comfortable with it. So yeah, I feel like that.
I see. So, what is the? I think in the same interview that you mentioned, you were saying that the answer to the problem of competitive scene in C is not to have more tournaments or more government support. It's to have more players really pushing out of the box, trying to really uh, churn out more strategies, newer strategies, not just following whichever thing is popular. Do you think this is a problem that C has because a lot of the teams, a lot of the countries are like far apart? It's not like in Europe where you can have like players from different countries. They're pretty close by. When they scrim together, they generally understand each other. Their pings are not that good. I know for you guys, you have two Malaysians in your team, and
Two Singaporeans.
two Singaporeans, one Malaysian, and you're from Australia. So, is geography a problem when you're trying to create a team? Do you find yourself having a problem talking to your team, communicating the time differences, not aligning?
For myself, for our team in general, like the two Australians, or actually used to be three Australians, were kind of open-minded. And since Australia is like a pretty multicultural country, we kind of can understand where they're coming from. If there was like a language barrier, then yes, I think that would be a problem. But 2D and 343 and chains, their English is quite good, and I can understand what they're trying to say. Not like language-wise, but like in game thinking. So if they have an idea that maybe us Australians are not so used to, so maybe it's like a C idea, if I think about it, I can sort of understand where they're coming from. So for myself, because of our current players, I think no. But maybe for other countries, maybe if we were to pick up a player from China, maybe his English is not so good, or maybe the complete different play style, so we can't get on the same page, then it could be a problem.
I see. Well, I guess the other side to that question is, are there just enough quality teams in C to practice these new strategies with? I think the other side of that is because there aren't enough tournaments, there aren't enough top tier C teams. So is it a matter of just not enough teams to hone your skills against in the area? Is that a problem for you as well?
Uh, I think regarding tournaments, there is enough. Maybe not so much for the lesser known teams to get known. Maybe not so many open qualifier tournaments. But when it comes to direct invite tournaments, there is a fair few. But when it comes to practicing against teams, I think that is one point. Like even prior to this event or during the event when we were boot camping, none of the teams in this tournament wanted to train because of problems or whatnot. So we were trying to find other teams to train against, and it was very difficult. We couldn't find any teams at all, and it was like a Friday, Saturday. I was quite surprised. So I think regarding teams, there has to be more stability, and they have to be more committed to have good practice with.
I see. Well, I suppose I'd like to ask you now about Australia. Um, in the C region, a lot of the countries here are Dota countries, especially in the esports arena, where League of Legends might be better might be bigger in the western part of the world than China. Over here in C, it's pretty clearly a Dota region. How is the scene in Australia?
Uh, well, the scene in Australia is small. Like the pool is not that big. There's not many sponsors, and even if a team is really good within Australia, it's hard to go play internationally because they have to play with ping, and since there's no sponsors, they don't get the chance to perform on even ping. So I think that's one of the big problems in Australia. I think it has evolved a bit, but it's nowhere near as enough as it should be. So maybe within some more time they can get going, and the esports scenes will grow from there on.
I see. I think before what some people were pointing out was that the internet infrastructure in Australia may be not that conducive to competitive play. Has it improved in later years? I mean, in recent years.
There is like a new internet, which is national broadband network, but only specific areas can get it. So, like for example, for me, I don't have it in my area, and if I were to move out, then it would require a bunch of money, and for that to happen, playing esports within Australia, it would be very difficult to fund yourself to just play Dota. So it's quite hard. It has evolved a little bit, but nowhere near as much. So.
I see. Well, I guess I do want to ask you about what's in store for the team. What are you guys looking to do after Malaysian All Stars? Are you guys looking to have a more? I believe you have a stable lineup right now. Is that correct?
Yes, but it could change. Like, nothing is guaranteed. If we see a problem, even unlike other teams, because we have been one of the teams with the most stable rosters out of all the other C teams, and if we drag it out for a long time and we still see the same problems, then we have to change. Change can be good, but it can also be bad. But depending on how you change, it will change the environment of the team, it will change how you play, so it really does come down to the players to mash up together well, to make it work.
Well, I guess we're coming down to the stretch of TI season. A lot more tournaments are going to be make or break for the invitational phase and especially for the qualifier phase. What do you think your guys' chances are for at least making the C qualifiers, if not a direct invite?
We were always planning out to try and get the direct invite, but Rave has been performing well ever since DAC. They did not perform in this tournament. Everyone was quite shocked, so even I was, because I thought they would do well. But because of that, it might give other C teams a chance to get a direct invite, depending on the performance on the other tournaments that are coming up in the future. But right now, I would say we're looking at C qualifiers, depending on how we go. If not, maybe if we perform well in the next future tournaments, then we could maybe get a direct invite.
Well, are there any tournaments lined up for you in the near future?
There's two major ones, which is ESL and Red Bull, which was announced recently, where there was only 4 direct invites from C. I think only one of the C teams will qualify and go there. So that's a big chance, since MVP, Rave, and one other team, I think eHome Malaysia, isn't it, with us? So depending on how we go in that tournament, it could be a big shot for TI.
Alright, well, I did promise a short interview with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Godot from CSW for Esports Inquirer. This is Bright Roar signing out.